Hi, my name is Antonio Gómez, and I am thrilled to be working with Early Music Seattle. I've had the opportunity to work with this organization in a number of different ways as a musician and an educator, and now as the developer and host of the series Deep Roots, New Branches. You're probably familiar with the expression that you can't see the forest for the trees. Well, one of the things that we have oftentimes done in early music is to look at the story of musical development as this monolithic narrative, this kind of single tree trunk. What we want to do with this series is zoom back a little bit and not just look at a single tree, but look at the entire forest and recognize the ways that the roots as well as the branches are tangled and intertwined with each other. What is really surrounding us is this beautiful, chaotic, cacophonous forest. Early music tells the story of how various cultures and various communities and peoples interacted with each other and were forever changed by each other. My path to early music was very unusual. I started out as a young musician playing jazz and funk and rock and Afro-Latin music, and it was through that work that I was eventually recruited to a flamenco group. And before I knew it, I was studying rhythms that took me to North Africa and to other parts of the Mediterranean, and eventually to study the great traditions of music from the Arab world and beyond. In the series Deep Roots, New Branches, we want to take you on a similar journey of discovery and revelation. Look at the interaction between Muslim, Jewish, and Christian musicians in medieval Spain, and how the music and poetry of that time of interfaith dialogue helped to shape the musical and poetic traditions that would take root across Europe. From the story of the oud as it becomes the lute, to the tradition of grand Arabic poetry with its conceit of courtly love that in turn inspires the troubadours of southern France and beyond. What we have come to think of as the Western tradition of music is really the culmination of so many different connections, from the golden age of Islam to the Silk Road to the traditions of North and Sub-Saharan Africa. And then in turn, we continue that story into the New World. And we find that the story of the Americas is one of interaction between indigenous and West African as well as European musical ideas. We spend some time in particular looking at the story of the African diaspora in the Americas and how one of the most tragic chapters of human history is transformed into a story of music as an expression of resilience and resistance and reinvention, and how music of the African diaspora in turn goes on to influence and shape musical traditions across the globe. And finally, we look at the ways that music and social justice movements have been connected over many centuries. And we explore this in particular across Latin America and among Latinos in the United States. Early music challenges you to hold multiple perspectives, multiple viewpoints all at once. It is music in transit, and it is not something that is locked up in a display case and set on a pedestal and unchanging. Rather, it is a dynamic and transcendent tradition of music that reminds us of so many different crossroads and interactions. We are literally touching the stories of our ancestors, and we are sharing them with them who we are, and learning a little bit more about who they are and how they were connected to other peoples. And that pushes us forward, I think, in a really amazing way. I'm really thankful to you and for your engagement with Early Music Seattle as audience members, as volunteers, as donors and supporters in this process of listening and expressing music together. We learn a little bit more about who each other is and who we ourselves are.